Happy 2025, everybody! To kick off the new year and this new YouTube channel, I'd like to share with you my absolute favorite year ahead spread. I can't take credit for creating this spread, it was shared with me many years ago, but I want to pass it forward and share it with you. What I like about this spread is that it breaks your year down quarter by quarter and then month by month, so it kind of nests different energies within each other and gives you a more comprehensive look at the year ahead. So, without further ado, let's take a look at it. As you can see, it's a very large spread. It's a total of 20 cards. But don't let that intimidate you. It's actually a very logical spread. The cards that are numbered Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4 correlate with the 4 quarters of the year. Then the numbered rows beneath correlate with the 12 months of the year. At the top and bottom, you see current year -1, current year +1, and current year +2. These 4 cards take a look at the year ahead in context. So what I mean by that is up in our upper right-hand corner, we see current year. The card that you pull for this position is an overall look of the energies of the year ahead, which in this case would be 2025. The card over in the upper left-hand corner would be 2024, or the current year -1. It's important to remember that this card, as well as the cards at the bottom, are in relation to the current year. So you can think of the upper left-hand card as how did 2024 and its energies relate to 2025 for me in my life? It can be helpful to look at these 2 cards together, almost like their own mini spread, and take a look at how did the card I pulled for the current year -1 set me up and put me in a position for what is now projected for the current year. Similarly, you can do that with the bottom. So the bottom left is 2026, but again, as it relates to 2025 for you. So it's what is this year setting me up for next year? And then our bottom right, current year +2, is the same idea. So think about what are the seeds I'm planting now and the things I'm setting up for myself to come to fruition in 2027. So it's how do the years of my life, 2025 and 2027, relate to each other. So let's try pulling some cards. We shuffle our deck up, and then remove cards however you do, whether that's fanning them out and selecting which cards feel like they need to come, or allowing them to drop on the table. Pull out cards for each of these positions. We'll start with quarter 1. Oh, I've pulled the 3 of Cups. So we drop that card into this position and then interpret that as the overarching theme for winter of 2025. So this is January, February, and March, the same quarters that businesses follow. Then to take a look at each of those months individually, we pull a card for each of them. So, I've got the Fool for January, and I've got the 3 of Swords for February. So we put them into their respective positions, and let's pull another card for March just so we can take a closer look at quarter 1. The Sun. So now we can see the energies for each of these months. And remember, this spread is essentially a forecast. So we're taking a look at what can I expect for each of these months, and because these are nested under quarter 1, how will they play out within that context of the 3 of Cups? So overall, we can expect quarter 1 of 2025 to be marked by social engagement and being surrounded by friends and feeling very emotionally collaborative and emotionally open, because those are all 3 of Cups themes. But then taking a look at individual cards, we now have a series of 2-card readings. So taking a look at the Fool for January, we know that January is going to be marked by a feeling of a fresh beginning and diving into the unknown, and if you think about it, very New Year's resolution, New Year, New Me kind of themes, but without really a roadmap, this sense of I'm going to launch myself into the unknown and see where that brings me. So to put these 2 together, I might read this as January, you might find yourself really putting yourself out there in more Social situations that you otherwise might not have put yourself into in the past. Maybe joining a meetup group or getting a new hobby, specifically with the plan of meeting people through it. It might mean overcoming some social anxiety or potentially taking new leaps with your existing friends. So you see how we combine the two cards to see, all right, well, what does January 2025 look like? Then we can take another look over at February. That Three of Swords. This is not always the most pleasant card. In fact, it's kind of it's like a bucket of cold water being dropped on you, and if you live in the northern hemisphere like me, getting a bucket of cold water dropped on you in February is not a great feeling. Although I know there are some hot parts of the northern hemisphere, I don't live in one of them. But again, let's take a look at that in the context of the Three of Cups. So in February, we're dealing with some hard truths. We're dealing with the facts don't care about your feelings, and the facts are all coming together even when it's not pleasant, but they're showing you the truth and they're showing you reality. So after you spent the month of January putting yourself out there and being more socially engaged than you had been previously, you might have some uncomfortable truths revealed to you in February. Maybe certain people aren't who you thought they were, or maybe you've learned some things about yourself. And hey, that's not always a bad thing. I think learning about yourself is a good thing. But let's say, for example, you decide to try bouldering and you join the local bouldering gym and you wanted to really get into that hobby and meet people. And then your first day up on the rocks, you were like, whoa, I'm afraid of heights. I never knew that because I've never climbed a tall wall full of plastic rocks before, but yeah, this is not for me. See how it's facts and it's reality coming together, and it's not always necessarily people being nefarious or treacherous. I think sometimes the swords get kind of a bad rap in that regard, but that could be your Three of Swords for February, just coming upon some profound truths, or coming upon this idea that you might not have the social battery that you thought you did. You might have initially gone into this year thinking, all right, I'm going to make some friends, I'm going to become a social butterfly, I'm going to make it happen. And then you go to a couple things in January and February and you're like, you know what, I've really discovered I'm kind of an introvert. Hey, that's reality. There's nothing wrong with it, but that's, again, how we can look at our Three of Swords nested under our Three of Cups to give a forecast for February 2025. Just to round out this first quarter, let's take a look at March. We've got the Sun, which has themes of self-expression and creativity and being uninhibited. In a lot of ways, the Sun is kind of a later, more evolved expression of the Fool, and we'll talk about that more another time. Let's take a look at it in context with our Three of Cups. Well, now that you've dove into the unknown in January, reached some uncomfortable but you can't ignore them truths in February, now you're a lot more secure with yourself, and you're entering March kind of thinking, all right, so bouldering wasn't for me. Not a big deal. All right, I'm kind of an introvert. Now I know, and now I am a lot more self-assured, and now I know how to approach social situations a bit more intelligently and a bit more authentically. So then you can read that as the energy that you're bringing into quarter two. Let's take a look at the card for quarter two. We've got the High Priestess. Once again, we can read this as the energy for the quarter as a whole. So in this quarter, we're looking at April, May, and June, and the cards that we pull for those individual months will be nested under this High Priestess card. That means that the spring is going to be a deeply intuitive period for you, and you're going to be spending time engaging with what's unknown and what's in the shadow, and really tuning into your more spiritual side. Read the rest of this spread exactly the way I walked you through it for the first quarter. Then when you get to the outer ones, the current year -1, the current year +1, and current year +2, pull cards for those and read them with your inner part in mind. Then take a photo, and if you feel so inclined, journal about it. What I do every year is I take a photo and then I journal about every single quarter and every single month. I write about a paragraph or so about what I think this card means for the upcoming year, and then as the year wears on, I go back to my year ahead spread month by month and write in what really happened. And then I compare notes. Was I close? Did I predict something somewhat accurately, but then things turned out a little differently than I had anticipated? It's a really cool way to just check in with yourself throughout the year, and then when December rolls around, you can look back on the year that you had. So that's about it for this year ahead spread. Give it a try. And if you do, let me know what you think. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts about this spread.